Time, space, the Force. It's more than a linear path. It's a prison of endless possibilities, where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities, creating alternate worlds from the ones you know. I am Ryan Brower. I am your guide through these vast new realities. Join me and ponder the question, what if? The Death Star, a weapon capable of destroying entire planets, but once the analytics of this weapon are given to the Rebellion, they are able to identify a weakness within and destroy it. We've seen many different versions of this play out. Kyle Katarn stole the Death Star plans. The group known as Rogue One stole the Death Star plans. But in this universe, the task of stealing the Death Star plans fell to the team of Hera Syndulla, Garazeb Orrelios, Sabine Wren, and Ezra Bridger, also known as the Ghost Crew. Oh yes, and you as well, Chopper. Wait, Chopper, how can you hear? In this universe, while Kanan Jarrus did give his life to save his friends, his apprentice, Ezra Bridger, was able to get off of Thrawn's Star Destroyer before it made the jump to hyperspace. The Battle of Lothal was won. Ezra would stay on his homeworld to help his people, Sabine returned home to help her family, and Hera and Zeb would stick with the Rebellion. Several years had passed, and the growing rumors of a secret Imperial weapon grew larger. The longer time went on, the harder it was for the Imperials to keep their weapon a secret. Between reports of Kyber crystal shipments, Imperial prison camps murdering their witnesses, and people within the Empire defecting to the Rebellion, including one man named Galen Erso, a man who was forced into service by the Empire, who rigged a trap inside the Death Star. Y'all know the one. In this universe, not only did Imperial Director Krennic murder Galen's wife Lyra, but he also took his daughter Jyn as a hostage. But that didn't stop Galen from trying to do good. After all, Jyn became friends with one of the prisoners who was also being held against his will. Galen knew she would be okay. One day, Galen snuck into Krennic's office and sent a transmission to the Rebellion, warning them of the weapon's existence. Back on Yavin 4, Hera was going about her normal morning routine until Mon Mothma, leader of the Rebellion, called her to the command center. When the Twi'lek asked what was wrong, the senator responded by saying, "You need to see this." On the holoprojector displayed one Galen Erso. "To whom this may concern within the Rebellion, my name is Galen Erso, Imperial scientist. With my help, the Empire has built a weapon that is capable of destroying entire planets. We call it the Death Star. I've never been on board with what the Empire has done, but I knew that if I was on the inside, I'd be able to do some good. If I didn't help the Empire, they would have murdered my daughter the same way they did my wife, and eventually, they would have figured out how to build this thing without me. So not only did I prove myself useful, I rigged a trap inside of it. You can find evidence of this inside a data disk on board the station. I can't transmit it, not now, and run the risk of it getting caught. I'm taking enough of a risk as it is right now, just warning you. I can't let them murder my only child, and the only person left in this galaxy that I truly love. But if you could send a small strike team on board, I can give you the disc along with my daughter to take to safety. But remember, it has to be a small covert team. This station is surrounded by over a dozen Star Destroyers with more on standby. Coming in here with a fleet won't do you any good. I'm sending you the coordinates now." Hera looked slightly concerned. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" "We don't," Mothma replied. "But if there's any chance we can find a weakness in their superweapon that can help us destroy it, we have to take the chance or the galaxy is doomed." "So you want me to take a team inside?" Mothma smiled. "Not just any team. It's not going to be easy to convince them. But if there's anyone that can, it's you, Hera." After the liberation of Lothal, Sabine Wren spent her days on Cronus, jousting with her brother Tristan, and painting, well, anything she could. But there was something missing in her life. Perhaps someone. As much as Sabine was eager to liberate Mandalore, like many of her people, Bo-Katan instructed everyone to focus on defending and fortifying their own bases to be ready for Imperial attacks. They would build shield generators, anti-aircraft cannons, and the like. When it came time for a female Twi'lek and smelly male Lasat to recruit her, she knew that she needed to leave her birth family to be with her adopted one. Ezra Bridger spent many days feeling lonely. While he was surrounded by the people of Lothal, the ones he loved so much he risked everything to save, he felt something was missing. Was it that his master, Kanan Jarrus, had perished? Was it his ghost crew family going their separate ways? Or was it something else? Every morning, Ezra would stand outside his tower to watch the sunrise on the planet he helped save, and one day, it wasn't the sunrise that caught his eye, rather a ship he was very familiar with. Ezra was beyond happy to see his family together, though he wondered, why now? Something tells me you're not just here for a reunion. Hera and Sabine explained the situation. Ezra was hesitant and told them he needed time to think. Hera was taken aback. She thought the old Ezra would have jumped at the chance for a mission like this. That night, Ezra had a vision. A father falling to the ground, a man screaming in pain, and that same man could... No, but it can't be. Impossible. Ezra tried to piece it together but failed, yet he knew the Force was leading him to that space station, though why, he didn't know. The next morning, Sabine went to speak with her old friend. She worried about him, maybe even more so than she worried about herself. Ezra told her, "I've decided to come with you." Sabine was excited. "What made you decide?" Ezra replied, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me." While she was definitely confused, it didn't take away her excitement. The Ghost Crew was back together. A few rotations later on Yavin 4, the Ghost Crew began getting ready to depart for their mission. Mon Mothma warned them that this was basically a suicide mission, and that if things went south, the rebellion would not be able to extract them. They heard that once before. Ezra had been on his fair share of missions he didn't think he'd come back from as well, such as Malachor. Hera watched Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb interacting with each other just like the old times, and it brought a tear to her eye. Chopper was there to comfort her, as he was known to do whenever she needed it. If Hera was gonna go out, she wanted to do so with her ship and her family. While she may not have been able to take the Ghost with her, her family was more than enough. The Ghost Crew was to depart in T-minus 12 hours. Poor Ezra had struggled to get much good sleep the past couple nights since being back with the crew. The visions continued to act as nightmares for him. As he was about to fall asleep, he heard a knock at his door. It was Sabine. She knew he was having problems. "How long is it going to take for you just to tell me what's going on?" After a moment of silence, Ezra did his best to explain his visions. Sabine didn't know how to respond. She wasn't a Jedi, nor did she think she'd ever have the potential to become one, but she cared about Ezra, and she wanted to be there for him. Ezra began to get a little emotional. "It's moments like this that I wish Kanan were here." She embraced him in a hug. "Me too," she responded. "It's time I get some sleep." Ezra went to lay down on his bed. To his shock, Sabine laid down next to him. "I'm staying with you, in case you get the nightmares again." Ezra gave her a look. "Don't read too much into it, kid, but you can a little bit." She gave him a smile. Ezra didn't know what to say. He always heard that first part from Sabine all the time when they first met. But that last part, that was new. Ezra drifted off to sleep and began to have more nightmares. Cries of a man grew louder. He heard his friend Zeb yelling at him to run, and a lightsaber. Ezra was shaking hard in his sleep, but Sabine was there to wake him up and calm him down. "You were shaking in your sleep. Sabine, it's getting worse and worse every time. Something tells me this mission might be the end of the road for me." Sabine shushed him and laid him back down on the bed. She then rested her own head on Ezra's chest. "Not if I can help it. Tomorrow we go in as a team, and I'm never leaving your side. I won't lose you." Ezra was perplexed by this. He had never seen Sabine act this way toward him before. But why? Why now? Questions that would have to be answered later. For now, he needed to try and get rest before the coming storm that was this mission. And thanks to the presence of Sabine, Ezra would get the most peaceful sleep he had in a while. At last, it was showtime. The stolen Imperial shuttle was prepped, and the Ghost Crew was ready to depart. Ezra was always confused how the Empire would allow so many shuttles to get stolen, but he was also curious about why the Force was calling him to the Death Star. He began piecing things together, but nothing that was concrete. While in hyperspace, Hera went over their plan. Once we land inside this Death Star, we get the Stormtrooper gear for Ezra and Sabine. From there, everyone knows their missions. Chopper, find a terminal and disable any tractor beams they might be able to use in our escape. Ezra and Sabine, you are to meet with Galen Erso in his office on this level. You will then head to the prison level to rescue Galen's daughter. I'll keep the ship ready to go. And Zeb, you're my backup in case something goes wrong. The rebels were granted access to land their shuttle in Hangar 84G. Ezra and Sabine had no difficulty obtaining stormtrooper gear, nor reaching Galen's office to acquire the Death Star plans. But the real challenge was going to be rescuing his daughter. For a little girl, there was a lot of security on her prison block. Ezra wanted Galen to come with, but he insisted on staying behind as he could do more good from within. Ezra had heard that one before too, from Agent Callus. Galen said he would call for a reactor leak as soon as they were in position as a way to try and get the guards to move away. So off they went. They reached the cell block, and it was worse than the two kids imagined. Stormtroopers were everywhere, along with several Death Troopers. The two were given clearance codes by Galen to reach his daughter's cell. Sabine stayed outside the cell with the other troopers while Ezra went in. "Just one of you this time." Ezra removed his helmet. My partner's just outside." "Who are you?" Ezra Bridger. "I was sent by your father to get you out." "That's great, but not before you save my friend in the next cell," Jin pleaded. "He's been nothing but kind to me since we both arrived here, but I think he might be a Jedi." "A Jedi?" Ezra started piecing it together. Why the Force was calling him here. He could hear someone screaming in the cell next to him. He peeked his head through the cell window and saw a man getting tortured. Ezra reassured Jin, "Don't worry, we'll get him out. I promise." The young Jedi walked outside the cell and mind-tricked the two guards to take a lunch break. Sabine was confused. "I need you to stay here with Jin while I rescue the Jedi inside the next cell." "A Jedi?" Ezra walked inside. The two Death Troopers assaulting the man stopped. Ezra attacked one, but the other got the jump on him, until he was being lifted in the air with the Force and dropped to the ground. "You're a Jedi?" "More or less," the man responded, "but judging by the looks of things, you are as well," staring at his lightsaber. "The name's Ezra Bridger. You can call me Kyle Katarn." The four reconvened in Jin's cell. "There's no way we make it off this block. Too many guards, and this one's too injured," referring to Kyle. Ezra would contact Galen to initiate the plan, and it was off. The guards were moving away over the potential of an explosion in the area. However, Galen was confronted by the station's leader, Director Orson Krennic. "You know, it's funny, Galen. You're an inspiring scientist, but when it comes to a stealth operation, you are the absolute worst." Krennic pulls out a blaster and shoots Galen straight in the heart. "Did you not think I would have every comlink in this station under surveillance? I knew of your plan the whole time, and the only reason I allowed it to go this far is because now I have the opportunity to wipe out one of the rebellion's greatest assets, the Ghost Crew." Galen fades away. "All available troopers, we have rebels on board with the Death Star plans and 2 prisoners. Destroy them all on sight." Getting to the hangar just became a lot harder for the rebels. They were compromised. Zeb had to get involved with the action to help our heroes get to safety. Chopper was doing his own thing without really telling anyone where he was going or what he was doing. Krennic was observing the rebels on camera. A Lasat. Interesting. While our heroes were able to make it to the hangar, it was too late. Stormtroopers were already there with Hera held at gunpoint on the ground, and walking in the hangar from behind was Director Krennic and his squad of Death Troopers. "Well, isn't this just incredible? Not only have I built the most powerful weapon in the whole galaxy, but now I've defeated the infamous Ghost Crew. Where is my father? Jin, I'm just gonna be perfectly honest with you. He's dead, and it was me that killed him." While Krennic smiled, Jin began to cry and look at Krennic in anger. "You're not gonna take us down that easy," Zeb yelled. Krennic laughed. "Well, yeah, perhaps it won't be as easy as it was to destroy your people, Lasat." Zeb's eyes widened before turning to anger. "Oh yes, I was there. Who do you think came up with the idea to use the ion disruptors on your people? The Emperor was so pleased with my performance that day, it's part of the reason I am where I am right now. And the best part of it all, Lasat, is I had so much fun doing it." Zeb became a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. But before anyone had the chance to say or do anything else, a TIE fighter approached the hangar, and it began to open fire on the stormtroopers. It was Chopper. bodies hit the floor and fire spread across the hangar. Our heroes rushed to save Hera, but in the process, Ezra was shot in the leg. Sabine, noticing what happened, immediately dove on top of him to protect him from any more blaster fire. The captain from Lasan brought out his bow rifle in the staff configuration and began wiping out the squad of death troopers, until he saw the Imperial Director pull out a bow rifle of his own. Zeb, who I don't think could get any more mad if he even tried, went to attack Krennic. "Sabine, get Kyle on the ship, now," said Ezra. "Hera and Jyn got him. I told you, I'm not leaving your side." Sabine began to walk her friend to the ship, as he could only walk on one leg at the moment. A stormtrooper shot at Sabine from a distance. While her armor protected her, it caused the young Mando to fall. Ezra, giving it his all, launched the trooper across the room by way of the Force before falling down. Sabine immediately ran to pick him up. They were so close to the ship, but right before they hit the ramp, a bolt raced through Ezra's back. Sabine panicked. Having seen this, Jyn ran out with a blaster and shot the Death Trooper responsible before helping the Mandalorian get the young Jedi on board. Sabine was in tears. Meanwhile, Zeb was battling Krennic staff against staff. Hera prepped the shuttle for takeoff and tried to get a hold of the Lasad. "Spectre 2, get out of here! Not without you, Spectre 4. Hera, you have the plans. Get out of here. You know what's at stake. But you'll... Hera, I need to do this for my people." With tears running down her face, Hera pulls the ship out of Hangar 84G. Chopper abandoned the TIE fighter and flew into the loading dock of the shuttle before they jumped to hyperspace. Krennic screamed as he realized they were leaving with his plans. He took a big risk, and he failed. The Lasat tackled the director to the ground before viciously punching him several times in the face, to the point where the brash Imperial was bleeding out. Zeb yelled, "Today, the rebellion has turned the tide of the war. We have your precious plans. We will find a weakness in this giant flying ball of yours, and we will destroy it before you can harm anyone else. For Lasan!" Zeb was so focused on the director, he failed to notice the death troopers that were still alive in the hangar and made their way over to him. They shot him several times in the back, but before they had the chance to get Krennic up, Zeb pulled a thermal imploder from his pocket, looking into the director's eyes, saying, "See you in hell." Bam! Everyone in that hangar was blown to bits. The mission was over. The Death Star plans were with the rebellion. They scored their first major victory against the Empire, but at a terrible cost. The life of Captain Garazeb Orrelios. And also, it was revealed on Yavin 4 by a rebel doctor that while the bolt that hit Ezra's leg would recover, the bolt that went through his back hit his spinal cord, and he would be paralyzed for life. Sabine spent all of her time by Ezra's side until he would wake up from his coma, afraid to tell him the bad news. "Ezra, I'm so sorry," she wept. "It's all my fault. Everyone around me that I love suffers because of me." She paused for a moment. "That's right. I love you." Her face fell to Ezra's bed, sobbing away, until she felt his hand move. "Ezra?" His eyes began to open. Sabine was overjoyed. "Thank goodness," she said as she hugged him while still in tears. Ezra tried to get up but couldn't. Sabine stopped him, and she saw his pain. "Ezra, wait. You need to rest. I'll send the doctor to follow up with you." Sabine didn't have it in her to tell Ezra what had happened. After having time to process everything the doctor said, Ezra called for Sabine. "Ezra, It's not your fault, Sabine. We all knew the risk of this mission. We all knew it was suicide from the start. It just so happens I was the one who paid the price, but not as costly as Zeb. I heard him telling me to run. If anything, his death is on my hands. I was a Jedi, and I failed to protect my family. Stop. Like you said, we all knew the risk. And now, because of us," Sabine sat on Ezra's bed and held his hand, "because of you, the rebellion will be able to identify a weakness and destroy the Empire's planet killer." The two stared at one another. "Ezra, I love you too, Sabine." "Wait, how did you..." Ezra gave her a look, making her remember he is a Jedi after all. "I liked you since the day we met, but you already knew that. However, it wasn't until we all separated that I realized how much I loved you. That's when I figured it out too. The tension was so high you could cut it with a knife. Or perhaps, a kiss." The two embraced, though Sabine did most of it as Ezra was still barely able to move. But as the two were lost in each other, the door opened. "You know, we could always come back later," Hera remarked as she walked in the room alongside Jin, Kyle, and Chopper. "No, your timing is perfect because there's something I need to tell you all." Ezra took a pause, slightly out of breath from what he was doing about 10 seconds ago. "While my fight on the front lines may be over, I want to fight. Whatever that might mean. Even if I have to sit in the nose gun on the Ghost all day, I want to fight." Hera walked over to her adopted son. "We're all here for you, whatever we can do." Kyle interrupted. "Actually, there is something you can do for me." Kyle all of a sudden was nervous for what he was about to ask. "You see, my own experience of being a Jedi is limited, and there's still so much I don't know about the Force. I thought maybe I can't train you, Kyle." He looked down in disappointment. "I can't train you traditionally, anyway. But I can show you of what I know from the Force, taught to me by my master, Kanan Jarrus." Kyle looked up and smiled. "You know, from all the stories I've heard about this squad, never did I think you were all this tight of a family." "It's what this rebellion was built on," Hera replied. "Rebellions might be built on hope, but this squad was built on family and love." Ezra and Sabine shot each other a look. "If I'm going to be a part of this rebellion, I would like to join this squad. That is, if you'll have me." Jin waited in anticipation for someone to say something. "Of course, you're welcome in this squad," Hera said. "We'd love to have you. Welcome to the family." While even in the darkest moments, this is the perfect example of how light can always shine through the dark. The Ghost crew might have been shattered, but not completely broken, because it is through those dark times that brings people closer together. Oh yes, these stories, these people, they mean everything to me. Thank you guys so much for checking out today's story. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to check out some of the other What If stories here on this channel, along with other videos, shorts, and live streams we do over here every single week. Thank you guys for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.